In the quiet solitude of my study, I stare at the photograph before me. The sepia-toned image, dated 1893, appears unremarkable at first glance. A stern-faced family posed rigidly before their Victorian home. Yet something about it has always unsettled me. The father's eyes, perhaps. They seem to follow me around the room. My name is Daniel Harrington, and I restore antique photographs for the Westbrook Historical Society. This particular photograph arrived 3 weeks ago in a collection donated by the descendants of the Blackwood family, prominent figures in this small New England town during the late 19th century. I run my fingers along the edges of the photograph, feeling the slight warp of the paper that comes with age. The air in my basement workshop feels suddenly heavy, as if the atmosphere itself is pregnant with secrets. The old brass lamp on my desk casts long shadows across the walls, and outside the wind whispers through the autumn trees. The Blackwood family, Father William, Mother Eleanor, daughters Catherine and Margaret, and son Thomas, stare back at me with the unsmiling solemnity typical of Victorian portraiture. Yet something in their expressions transcends the usual stoicism of the era. There's a tension there, a fear perhaps. I set down my magnifying glass and reach for my cup of tea, now grown cold. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimes midnight, its deep resonance echoing through the empty house. My wife, Sarah, is away visiting her sister in Boston, leaving me alone with my work and this unsettling photograph. The telephone's shrill ring cuts through the silence, making me jump. Who would call at this hour? Hello? I answer, my voice betraying my irritation. Daniel, it's Michael. I'm sorry to call so late, but I found something unusual. Michael Pearson is a colleague at the university's radiology department. 3 days ago, on a whim, I'd asked him to x-ray the Blackwood photograph. It was an unconventional request, but not unheard of. Art conservators sometimes use x-rays to detect alterations or hidden elements in paintings. Why not try it with a photograph that seemed to hold more than it revealed? What is it, Michael? I ask, suddenly alert. His voice drops to nearly a whisper. You need to come see this. Now. It's midnight, Michael. Trust me, Daniel. You won't sleep anyway after I tell you what I found. 30 minutes later, I'm walking through the deserted corridors of the university's science building. My footsteps echo against the polished floors as I make my way to the radiology lab. Michael is waiting at the door, his face pale in the fluorescent light. I've been here all evening, he says, ushering me inside. I can't make sense of it. The lab is cold and sterile, humming with the sound of expensive equipment. Michael leads me to a light box where several X-ray films are displayed. This is your photograph, he says, pointing to the first film. Normal X-ray, showing what you'd expect, variations in density, some metallic content in the old photographic processes. I nod, unsurprised. 19th century photographs often contained silver and other metals. But then, I tried different settings, different angles. He points to the second film, and this appeared. I lean closer, my breath catching in my throat. Beneath the visible image of the Blackwood family is another picture entirely. A group of people standing in a circle around what appears to be a body on the ground. What am I looking at? I whisper. A hidden photograph, Michael replies. Somehow there's another image underneath the one we can see. It's as if someone created a photograph on top of an existing one, concealing the original. But that's impossible, I say. The photographic processes of the 1890s wouldn't allow for that. Michael shrugs. Apparently someone found a way. I stare at the ghostly figures revealed by the X-ray. The hidden image is unclear, the figures mere silhouettes, but there's no mistaking the shape of a human form lying on the ground at their center. Can we enhance this? I ask. I've been working on it, Michael says, moving to a computer. Digital processing of the X-ray reveals more detail. The screen flickers to life, showing an enhanced version of the hidden image. The figures are still indistinct, but now I can make out more details. The body on the ground appears to be a woman in Victorian dress. The people standing around her, 5 of them, have their arms outstretched. It looks like some kind of ritual, Michael says. I count the standing figures. 5. The same number as the Blackwood family in the visible photograph. I need to learn more about the Blackwoods, I say. The next morning finds me in the archives of the Westbrook Historical Society, surrounded by dusty ledgers and yellowed newspapers. The building, once a grand mansion belonging to the town's founder, now serves as a repository for Westbrook's history. Outside, rain taps against the tall windows and the scent of old paper fills the air. Martha Jenkins, the Society's elderly archivist, peers at me over her spectacles. The Blackwoods? Goodness, I haven't heard that name in years. I'm researching them for a restoration project, I explain, not mentioning the hidden photograph. Something tells me to keep that discovery to myself for now. Martha disappears into the stacks and returns with several boxes. Here's what we have on the Blackwoods. William was a prominent physician in town during the late 19th century. They lived in the house that now serves as the public library. I spend hours poring over the materials, birth and death certificates, property records, newspaper clippings. The facts align with what little I already knew. William Blackwood, born 1851, married Eleanor Pierce in 1873. 3 children, Catherine, born 1874, Thomas, 1878, and Margaret, 1883. A respected family by all accounts. But then I find something odd. A newspaper article from October 1893, just months after the date stamped on the back of the photograph. Local physician's wife dies under mysterious circumstances. The headline reads, according to the article, Eleanor Blackwood was found dead in the family home on October 17, 1893. The cause was listed as heart failure, but the article hints at something more. Rumors of unusual practices in the Blackwood household have circulated for some time, though Dr. Blackwood's standing in the community has largely silenced such talk. Heart racing, I read on. The article mentions that Eleanor had been in perfect health, that no autopsy was performed, and that she was buried within 24 hours of her death, unusually quick, even by Victorian standards. Another article, dated a week later, reports that William Blackwood and his children left Westbrook suddenly, their destination unknown. The house was sold, their possessions auctioned. I sit back, my mind racing. A family photograph taken in the summer of 1893. A hidden image beneath it showing what appears to be a ritual surrounding a woman's body. And months later, Eleanor Blackwood dies mysteriously, followed by the family's abrupt departure from town. The next clipping almost makes my heart stop. It's a small notice from the back pages of the newspaper, dated October 16, 1893, the day before Eleanor's death. Dr. Blackwood announces the arrival of Mr. Sebastian Marorrow, a practitioner of the new science of X-ray photography. Mr. Marorrow will be demonstrating his apparatus at Dr. Blackwood's home this evening for interested parties. X-ray photography. In 1893, 2 years before Wilhelm Röntgen's official discovery of X-rays in 1895. My hands are shaking as I reach for my phone to call Michael. You need to see this, I tell him. An hour later, Michael sits beside me in the archives, staring at the newspaper clipping. This is impossible, he says. X-rays weren't discovered until 1895. This article is from 1893. Exactly, I reply. And look at the date, the day before Eleanor Blackwood died. Michael runs a hand through his hair. So this Sebastian Marorrow supposedly demonstrated X-ray technology at the Blackwoods' house, and the next day, Eleanor turns up dead. And there's a hidden image in their family photograph showing what looks like a ritual around a woman's body. It gets stranger, I say, showing him another document I've found. A page from William Blackwood's medical journal, one of the few personal effects that remained in Westbrook after the family's departure. The entry, dated October 16, 1893, reads, Marorrow's apparatus functions beyond all expectation, the invisible made visible. Eleanor remains skeptical, but the children are entranced. What might we see if we were to turn it upon ourselves? Marorrow speaks of energies beyond the physical, of capturing the soul itself on photographic plates. Nonsense perhaps, but compelling nonsense. Michael reads the entry twice. This sounds like Blackwood and Marorrow were experimenting with more than just medical x-rays. I nod. The question is, what happened that night? And how does it connect to the hidden image in the photograph? We spend the rest of the day searching for information on Sebastian Marorrow, but find nothing. It's as if he appeared in Westbrook for that one demonstration and then vanished from history. As evening approaches, Martha Jenkins informs us that the archives are closing. Reluctantly, we gather our notes and prepare to leave. Oh, I almost forgot, Martha says, handing me a small leather-bound book. This was with the Blackwood materials. It's Eleanor's diary. Perhaps it will help with your research. The diary feels heavy in my hands, as if weighted with secrets. I thank Martha and tuck it into my bag, eager to read it in the privacy of my home. The rain has stopped by the time I return home, but the sky remains overcast, casting a gloomy pall over the landscape. The old Victorian house I inherited from my grandfather creaks in the wind, its rooms filled with shadows as twilight descends. I settle in my study with Eleanor's diary, a glass of whiskey at my elbow. The diary covers the years 1892 and 1893, the entries becoming more sporadic toward the end. Eleanor writes of domestic matters mostly, the children's education, social calls, her husband's increasingly distant behavior. But beginning in the summer of 1893, her entries take a disturbing turn. July 15, 1893. William brought home a strange device today, something he calls a spirit camera. He claims it can photograph the invisible world that exists alongside our own. I expressed skepticism, which angered him. He spends all his time in his study now, corresponding with people I've never heard of. I worry for him. July 28, 1893. William insisted on taking a family portrait with his new camera today. The children were frightened by the apparatus, especially little Margaret. The flash was unusually bright, and I felt a strange sensation pass through me, like being immersed in ice water. William was pleased with the result, though to my eyes it looks like any other photograph. August 10th, 1893. I found William in his study last night, staring at our family portrait under a strange light. When I entered, he hid it away quickly, but not before I glimpsed something odd. It seemed as if there were shadows moving within the photograph itself. When I questioned him, he grew angry and told me to mind the children and leave his work alone. September 3rd, 1893. The children have been having nightmares. Catherine speaks of a woman who stands at the foot of her bed, dripping water. Thomas says he hears whispers coming from his father's study at night. Margaret, poor child, refuses to sleep alone. William dismisses their fears and mine. He is consumed by his work, barely acknowledging our presence. Sometimes I hear him talking to someone in his study, though he is alone. The entries grow more alarming as September turns to October. October 12, 1893. William announced today that a man named Sebastian Marorrow will be visiting us. Apparently, he possesses a machine that can see through matter itself. William speaks of him with an almost religious reverence. I am afraid. October 15, 1893. Preparations for Marorrow's visit tomorrow. William has cleared the dining room and set up strange equipment. When I objected, he looked at me with such coldness that I fell silent. There is something wrong with my husband. I fear he is involved in matters beyond his understanding. I have hidden this diary in Margaret's doll, along with the locket my mother gave me. If anything should happen to me, perhaps someone will find it. This is the final entry. 2 days later, Eleanor Blackwood was dead. I close the diary, my hands trembling. Outside, the wind has picked up, rattling the windows. I pour another whiskey and try to make sense of what I've read. A spirit camera, a hidden image, X-rays before their official discovery, and a woman who feared for her life in the days before her mysterious death. I reach for the photograph again, studying the faces of the Blackwood family, William's stern countenance, Eleanor's tight smile, the solemn expressions of the children. Was Eleanor already afraid when this was taken? Did she sense that something was wrong with the photograph, or with her husband? The telephone rings, startling me from my thoughts. Daniel? Michael's voice is breathless with excitement. I've been doing more work on the X-ray image. I've managed to enhance it further. And? The woman on the ground in the hidden image. I can see her face now. Daniel, it's Eleanor Blackwood. A chill runs down my spine. That's impossible. The photograph was taken in July. Eleanor died in October. I know, Michael says. But there's more. The X-ray is picking up text, words somehow embedded in the photograph. It's faint, but I can make out a phrase. The soul captured. I think of Eleanor's diary entry. William brought home a strange device today, something he calls a spirit camera. He claims it can photograph the invisible world that exists alongside our own. Michael, I say slowly, I think William Blackwood and Sebastian Marorrow were trying to photograph the soul, not just the body, but what lies beyond the physical. That's absurd, Michael says, but his voice lacks conviction. Is it? Think about it. X-rays allow us to see beyond the surface, to what lies beneath. What if Marorrow had developed the technology early, and what if he and Blackwood took it a step further? What if they believed they could capture the soul itself on film? There's a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, Michael speaks. If that's true, what happened to Eleanor? The question hangs in the air between us. What indeed? I need to see the enhanced image, I say. I've sent it to your email, but Daniel, be careful. There's something else in the image, something I can't explain. I hang up and open my laptop, finding Michael's email with the enhanced X-ray image attached. The hidden photograph beneath the family portrait is now much clearer. I can see the 5 figures standing in a circle: William, Catherine, Thomas, Margaret, and a tall man who must be Sebastian Marorrow. In the center lies Eleanor, her eyes open but vacant, her arms outstretched. But it's what hovers above her that makes my blood run cold. A swirling mass of light, like a vortex, seems to be emerging from her chest. And within that vortex, faces, dozens of distorted, screaming faces. I slam the laptop shut, my heart pounding. What am I looking at? A photographic anomaly? A deliberate double exposure? Or something far more sinister? I need to know more about Sebastian Marorrow. The next day, I drive to the State University Library, home to one of the most extensive collections of materials on early photographic and radiographic experiments. If Marorrow existed, if he truly developed X-ray technology before Röntgen, there might be some record of him here. The university library is a massive Gothic structure, its interior a labyrinth of stacks and reading rooms. I explain my research to the special collections librarian, carefully omitting any mention of the hidden image or my suspicions about the Blackwoods. Sebastian Marorrow? The librarian, a thin man named Dr. Elias Carter, raises his eyebrows. That's a name I haven't encountered in my research on early radiography. But let me check our archives. Hours later, we've found nothing. No scientific papers, no patents, no mentions in journals or newspapers beyond the single clipping from Westbrook. Sebastian Marorrow seems to have appeared out of nowhere for his demonstration at the Blackwood house, then vanished just as mysteriously. Dr. Carter's interest is piqued, however. This is most unusual, he says, peering at me over his glasses. You say this Marorrow was demonstrating X-ray technology in 1893, 2 years before Röntgen? I nod, showing him the newspaper clipping. Extraordinary, he murmurs. If true, it would rewrite the history of radiography. Is it possible? I ask. Could someone have developed X-rays before Röntgen and simply never published their findings? Dr. Carter considers this. Possible, yes. Numerous scientists were experimenting with cathode rays in the late 19th century. Röntgen's discovery of X-rays was somewhat accidental. He noticed that cathode rays caused a fluorescent screen to glow, even when the rays should have been blocked. It's conceivable that someone else might have made a similar discovery earlier. But to keep it secret, why would a scientist not publish such a momentous finding? Dr. Carter's expression grows thoughtful. Perhaps because they were using it for purposes beyond the scientific mainstream. There was considerable interest in the occult during this period, you know. Spiritualism, seances, attempts to communicate with the dead, or photograph the soul. I think of Eleanor's diary. He claims it can photograph the invisible world that exists alongside our own. Do you have any materials on the intersection of early photography and spiritualism? I ask. Dr. Carter leads me to another section of the archives, where he produces several volumes on spirit photography, the purported practice of capturing ghosts or spirits on film, popular in the late 19th century. Most of this was fraudulent, of course, he explains. Double exposures, strategic use of light and shadow. But some practitioners were sincere in their belief that the camera could capture what the human eye could not. I spend the afternoon reading about spirit photography, about mediums who claimed to manifest ectoplasm that could be photographed, about scientists who theorized that the soul might emit radiation that could be captured on photographic plates. One name keeps appearing in these accounts: Edward Ridgway, a British physicist who disappeared under mysterious circumstances in 1891 after claiming to have developed a method for photographing the ethereal body that supposedly exists alongside the physical one. Dr. Carter, I say, showing him a passage about Ridgway. Does this sound familiar? He reads it and nods slowly. Indeed, the parallels to your Sebastian Marorrow are striking. Both claim to have developed technology to photograph the unseen. Both disappeared mysteriously. Could they be the same person? I ask. It's possible. Ridgway vanished from London in 1891. Your Marorrow appears in Westbrook in 1893. Enough time for a man to cross the Atlantic and establish a new identity. I feel a chill despite the warmth of the library. What if Ridgway or Marorrow actually succeeded? What if he found a way to photograph the soul? Dr. Carter gives me a measured look. Mr. Harrington, I am a man of science. I deal in facts, in what can be proven. The idea that one could photograph the soul is, well, It's beyond the realm of accepted scientific possibility. But if it were possible, I press, what might be the consequences of such an attempt? He removes his glasses, polishing them thoughtfully. In the realm of pure speculation, who knows? The ancients believed that capturing a person's image captured part of their soul. Many indigenous cultures still hold this belief. If there were any truth to such notions, then attempting to directly photograph the soul might be intrusive, possibly even harmful. I think of Eleanor Blackwood, found dead the day after Sebastian Marorrow's demonstration. I think of the hidden image showing her lying on the floor, a vortex of light emerging from her chest. Thank you for your help, Dr. Carter, I say, gathering my notes. You've given me a lot to think about. As I turn to leave, he calls after me. Mr. Harrington, whatever you're researching, be careful. The past sometimes has ways of reaching into the present. The warning follows me as I drive home through the gathering dusk. The road winds through dense New England woods, the trees forming a tunnel overhead. My headlights seem inadequate against the encroaching darkness. At home, I find a package on my doorstep, a small, paper-wrapped parcel with no return address. Inside is a yellowed envelope addressed to the current resident of my house. I open it with trembling fingers, finding a single sheet of paper inside. The handwriting is spidery and faint. If you are reading this, you have found something that was meant to stay hidden. The photograph holds the truth, but beware. Some truths are dangerous to know. What was captured cannot be released. For your own safety, burn the photograph and forget what you've seen. MB, Margaret Blackwood. The youngest child in the photograph would have been 10 years old in 1893. If she survived to adulthood, she might have left this warning. I checked the postmark on the envelope. October 17, 1953, exactly 60 years after Eleanor Blackwood's death. Margaret would have been 70 by then. What was captured cannot be released. The phrase echoes in my mind as I enter my study, where the Blackwood photograph sits on my desk. In the dim light, the faces seem to shift slightly, as if the figures are breathing. I pour myself a whiskey and call Michael. I need to see the original X-ray films again, I tell him. Tonight. It's after hours, Daniel. The lab is closed. You have access, don't you? A pause. Yes, but please, Michael. This is important. He sighs. Fine. Meet me there in an hour. The university is quiet at night, most buildings dark and locked. The science complex, however, remains partially lit for researchers working late. Michael meets me at a side entrance, looking nervous. This better be worth it, he grumbles as he swipes his key card to let us in. I found out more about Sebastian Marorrow, I tell him as we walk through the deserted corridors. I think he might have been a British physicist named Edward Ridgway who disappeared in 1891 after claiming to have found a way to photograph the soul. Michael gives me a skeptical look. Photograph the soul? Daniel, do you hear yourself? I know how it sounds, but look at the evidence. Marorrow demonstrates X-ray technology 2 years before its official discovery, and the next day, Eleanor Blackwood dies mysteriously. And there's a hidden image in their family photograph showing what looks like a ritual centered around Eleanor's body. We reach the radiology lab, and Michael unlocks the door. Inside, the equipment hums softly in the darkness until Michael switches on the lights. The X-ray films are in here, he says, leading me to a storage cabinet. He retrieves the films of the Blackwood photograph and places them on the light box. Once again, I'm looking at the hidden image beneath the family portrait. The circle of figures around Eleanor's prone form, the swirling vortex above her chest. I've been thinking about this, Michael says, pointing to the vortex. At first I assumed it was some kind of photographic anomaly or deliberate effect. But what if it's actually showing something that was happening at the moment the hidden photograph was taken? Like what? I don't know. Energy of some kind? A reaction to whatever process they were using? I study the image more closely. The vortex seems to be composed of thousands of tiny points of light, swirling in a counterclockwise motion. And those faces within it, they're clearer now under the bright light of the lab, contorted in expressions of pain or fear. Michael, I say slowly, can we X-ray this again, but with different settings? I want to see if there's anything else hidden in the image that we missed. He hesitates. I suppose we could try higher energy levels, different angles. But Daniel, we shouldn't be here after hours like this. Please, it won't take long. Reluctantly, he agrees. We take the original photograph, which I've brought with me in an acid-free envelope, and prepare it for another round of X-rays. This is a valuable historical artifact. Michael reminds me as he positions it in the machine. We need to be careful not to damage it. I know, but there's something in this photograph that needs to be understood. Michael adjusts the settings and steps back. All right, here we go. The machine hums to life, bathing the photograph in invisible radiation. We wait in tense silence until the process is complete, then move to examine the results. The new X-ray films show something unexpected. At the highest energy levels, the hidden image changes. The vortex above Eleanor's chest appears to extend beyond the borders of the photograph, tendrils of light reaching toward the edges of the frame. That's odd, Michael says, frowning. It's as if the image continues beyond the physical photograph. I feel a strange sensation, like a cold hand brushing the back of my neck. Can we digitally enhance this one too? Michael nods and transfers the X-ray data to his computer. After several minutes of processing, a new image appears on the screen. My God, Michael whispers. The enhanced image shows that the tendrils of light extend not just to the edges of the photograph, but beyond them, reaching out toward the viewer, like grasping fingers. It's three-dimensional, Michael says, his voice tinged with awe and fear. The X-ray is picking up something that extends outward from the photograph itself. As we stare at the screen, something happens that neither of us can later fully explain. The tendrils of light in the image seem to pulse, just once, like a heartbeat. At the same moment, the lights in the lab flicker, and both Michael and I feel a surge of cold air, as if someone has opened a door to a winter night. Did you see that? I whisper. Michael nods, his face pale. A power fluctuation, that's all. Has to be. But we both know it was something more. Something responding to our scrutiny. I think we should stop, Michael says, reaching for the computer's power button. I grab his wrist. Wait, look at the faces in the vortex. The enhanced image shows them more clearly now. Dozens of human faces swirling within the vortex above Eleanor's chest. Men, women, children, their features contorted in expressions of agony or terror. Who are they? Michael asks. I don't know, but look at this one. I point to a face near the center of the vortex, a woman with high cheekbones and deep-set eyes. Doesn't she look familiar? Michael peers at the screen. My God, she looks like Eleanor Blackwood. Exactly. But why would Eleanor's face be in this vortex if she's also lying on the floor beneath it? We stare at the image, trying to make sense of what we're seeing, and then I notice something else. A face at the very edge of the vortex, barely visible. A man with a beard and piercing eyes. Can you zoom in on this one? I ask, pointing. Michael enhances that section of the image. The face becomes clearer, a middle-aged man with a neatly trimmed beard and penetrating eyes that seem to stare directly at the viewer. Sebastian Marorrow, I whisper. How can you know that? I can't, not for certain. But look at his expression compared to the others. They look afraid, in pain. He looks triumphant. As Michael zooms in further, we notice something clutched in the man's spectral hands. A device of some kind, with lenses and dials. A camera, Michael says. He's holding a camera inside this, whatever it is. The implications are too disturbing to voice aloud. If this is indeed Sebastian Marorrow, if he's somehow present within the vortex alongside his device, what does that mean? Did he become trapped in his own experiment? And more troublingly, if Eleanor's face is among those in the vortex, but her body is lying on the floor beneath it, then what exactly happened to Eleanor Blackwood on October 17, 1893? The lab feels suddenly claustrophobic, the air thick and hard to breathe. Outside, a storm has blown in, rain lashing against the windows. We should go, Michael says, shutting down the computer. It's late, and this is unsettling. I finish for him. We carefully return the photograph to its protective envelope and the X-ray films to their storage cabinet. As Michael locks up the lab, neither of us speaks. There's a weight between us now, the weight of something we've seen but cannot explain. In the parking lot, the rain soaks us as we hurry to our cars. Michael pauses beside his vehicle, water streaming down his face. Daniel, he says, whatever is going on with that photograph, maybe we should leave it alone. Some things aren't meant to be understood. I think of the warning I received. What was captured cannot be released. But I'm too far down this rabbit hole to turn back now. I need to know what happened to the Blackwoods, I tell him. What really happened? Michael nods, resignation in his eyes. Call me tomorrow. And Daniel, be careful. I drive home through the storm, wipers struggling against the downpour, lightning occasionally illuminating the landscape in stark white flashes. The roads are nearly empty at this late hour, giving me the uneasy feeling that I'm alone in the world. At home, I find that the power has gone out. I fumble my way through the dark house with a flashlight, eventually settling in my study with candles providing the only illumination. Outside, the storm rages, wind howling around the eaves of the old house. I place the Blackwood photograph on my desk, studying it in the flickering candlelight. The family stares back at me, their expressions unreadable in the dim light. But now, knowing what lies beneath the visible image, I can almost sense the hidden picture pulsing beneath the surface, like a second heartbeat. What if Dr. Carter was right? What if the ancient belief that photographs capture part of the soul has some basis in truth? And what if Marorrow and Blackwood found a way to capture not just a fragment, but the entire soul? I think of the faces trapped in that swirling vortex. Were they previous victims of Marorrow's experiments? And why was Eleanor's face among them if her body was lying on the floor? Unless, a terrible thought occurs to me. What if the Eleanor Blackwood who died on October 17, 1893, wasn't truly Eleanor anymore? What if someone else was inhabiting her body? I reach for Eleanor's diary again, rereading the final entries with this new perspective in mind. October 12, 1893. William announced today that a man named Sebastian Marorrow will be visiting us. Apparently, he possesses a machine that can see through matter itself. William speaks of him with an almost religious reverence. I am afraid. Was William planning to use his wife in Marorrow's experiment? Did he know what would happen to her? I turn to the family photograph again. In the sepia-toned image, William Blackwood stands behind his seated wife, one hand resting on her shoulder. I had interpreted the gesture as possessive, perhaps controlling, but now I see something else in his expression. Anticipation, as if he was already imagining what would happen to Eleanor just months later. The candle nearest to the photograph flickers suddenly, though there's no draft in the room. For a moment, I could swear that William's eyes in the photograph shifted, looking directly at me. I jerk back, heart pounding. A trick of the light, surely. The storm outside, the shadows in the room, my overtired mind, all conspiring to create illusions. But when I force myself to look at the photograph again, something has changed. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but Eleanor's expression seems different now. Sadder. Her eyes seem to plead with me. I blink hard and the effect vanishes. The photograph is just a photograph again. The family frozen in their eternal pose. I need sleep. Tomorrow I'll continue my research with a clearer head. As I prepare for bed, the storm still raging outside, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. Every shadow seems to conceal a figure. Every creak of the old house sounds like a footstep. In my bedroom, I place Eleanor's diary and the photograph in the bedside drawer, unwilling to leave them in the study overnight. As I close the drawer, my fingers brush against something cold and metallic. A locket. I withdraw it, confused. I've never seen this locket before. It's old, Victorian in style, with delicate engravings on its silver surface. With trembling fingers, I open it. Inside is a tiny portrait of a woman, Eleanor Blackwood, and inscribed on the inside of the cover in minute letters, "To my daughter Eleanor, may this keep you safe." 1873. The locket mentioned in Eleanor's diary. I have hidden this diary in Margaret's doll, along with the locket my mother gave me. But how is it here, in my bedside drawer? I've owned this house for 5 years, inherited from my grandfather. The drawer has been empty except for a few books and reading glasses. Unless... A chill runs through me as I realize the implications. The locket somehow has found its way to me, just as the warning letter did, just as the Blackwood photograph did. Something wants me to know what happened in 1893. Something, or someone, is guiding me toward the truth. I sleep fitfully that night, my dreams filled with swirling vortices of light and faces screaming silently within them. I dream of Eleanor Blackwood standing at the foot of my bed, her eyes hollow, her mouth opening to speak words I cannot hear. I wake before dawn, drenched in sweat despite the cool autumn air. The storm has passed, leaving a preternatural stillness in its wake. Birds should be singing their morning songs, but the world outside my window is silent. The locket lies on my bedside table where I left it. In the gray morning light, it looks ordinary, just an antique piece of jewelry. But I know better now. I know it's a message. After a quick shower and coffee, I call Michael. I need to see the Blackwood house, I tell him. The original one, where they lived in 1893. You mean the public library? Michael sounds groggy, as if I've woken him. Daniel, it's 6:30 in the morning. I know, but I found something. Eleanor's locket, the one she mentions in her diary. It was in my bedside drawer last night. What? How is that possible? I don't know. But I think someone, something, wants me to discover what happened to the Blackwoods. And it all centers on that house. Michael is silent for a long moment. The library doesn't open until 9. Meet me there then. The Westbrook Public Library is housed in a magnificent Victorian mansion at the end of Elm Street. Built in the 1870s, it served as the Blackwood family home until Eleanor's death in 1893. After the family's departure, the house changed hands several times before being donated to the town in 1925 for use as a library. Michael and I meet on the broad stone steps leading to the entrance. The morning is bright but cool, the storm having washed the world clean. The library's Gothic architecture, all pointed arches and ornate woodwork, looms above us, imposing in the clear light. "Tell me about the locket," Michael says as we wait for the library to open. I show it to him, nestled in my palm. It belonged to Eleanor Blackwood. She mentions hiding it, along with her diary, in her daughter's doll on the day before she died. Michael examines it without touching it. "And you found this in your bedside drawer? A drawer you use regularly?" I nod. "It wasn't there the night before. I would have noticed." "Daniel," Michael says carefully, "is it possible that you're becoming obsessed with this case? That perhaps your mind is playing tricks on you?" I bristle at the suggestion. "You saw the X-rays, Michael. You saw the hidden image, the faces in the vortex. Was that my imagination too?" He holds up his hands in surrender. "No, of course not. I'm just concerned about you, that's all." The library doors open at precisely 9 Sears, and we enter the cool, book-scented interior. The building has been extensively renovated for its current purpose, but many original architectural features remain. The grand staircase, the stained glass windows, the intricate ceiling moldings. The head librarian, a friendly woman named Patricia Winters, greets us warmly when I explain our research interests. The Blackwood family? Oh yes, they were the original owners. Such a tragic story. "You know about them?" I ask, surprised. She nods. "It's part of local history. Dr. Blackwood was quite prominent, and his wife's sudden death caused quite a scandal at the time. There were rumors, suggestions that the doctor might have been involved in her death. And what happened to the family afterward?" Michael asks. "They left town suddenly. The children were sent to relatives, I believe. Dr. Blackwood disappeared. Some said he went to Europe. Others claimed he took his own life out of grief. The house stood empty for nearly a decade before the Hendersons bought it in 1902. "Do you know anything about a man named Sebastian Marorrow?" I ask. "He visited the Blackwoods the day before Eleanor died." Patricia frowns. "The name isn't familiar, but our archives might have something. We keep all materials related to the house's history in the special collections room." She leads us to a small room at the back of the library, lined with glass-fronted cabinets containing artifacts and documents. "Here's everything we have on the Blackwoods in the house," she says, gesturing to several boxes on a table. "Feel free to look through them, and let me know if you need anything else." Once she's gone, Michael and I begin sifting through the materials: property records, old photographs of the house, newspaper clippings, even some of William Blackwood's medical journals that remained when the family fled. In one of the boxes, I find architectural plans for the house dated 1872. They show the original layout of the mansion, 4 floors, including an attic and basement, with dozens of rooms. "Look at this," I say to Michael, pointing to a section of the basement plans. "There's a room here labeled laboratory. Did doctors typically have laboratories in their homes in the 1890s? Michael studies the plans. "Not usually, no. Most medical procedures were performed in hospitals by then, but Blackwood might have been conducting private research, or experiments," I murmur. We continue our search, finding more newspaper articles about Eleanor's death and the family's subsequent disappearance. One article, dated November 1893, mentions that several patients of Dr. Blackwood had reported unusual symptoms after being treated by him in the months leading up to his wife's death: exhaustion, memory loss, a feeling of being diminished somehow. "This supports our theory," I say. "What if Blackwood was experimenting on his patients before turning to his own family? What if he was somehow extracting something from them using Marorrow's device?" Michael looks skeptical but doesn't dismiss the idea outright. If, and it's a big if, they had developed some way to capture images of the soul or life energy or whatever you want to call it, then theoretically they might have found a way to extract it as well. And what happens to a person when their soul is extracted? Neither of us voices the obvious answer. Instead, we turn back to the documents, searching for any mention of Sebastian Marorrow or Edward Ridgway. Hours pass as we pore over the materials. Outside, the sun climbs to its zenith and begins its descent, shadows lengthening across the library floor. We find nothing more about Marorrow, but discover several references to William Blackwood's increasing interest in what one correspondent called the new photography of the unseen. In a letter dated August 1893, a colleague writes to Blackwood, "Your recent findings regarding the photography of vital energies are most intriguing. If you have indeed found a way to capture the elan vital on a photographic plate, the implications for medical science, and indeed for our understanding of human existence itself, are profound. I await your further communications with great anticipation." The elan vital, Michael says. It's an old concept in vitalism, the idea that living organisms are fundamentally different from non-living things because they possess a vital force or energy. A soul, in other words, I say. As the library nears closing time, Patricia returns to check on our progress. "Finding what you need?" she asks. "Yes, thank you," I reply. "But I'm curious, are there any parts of the original house that haven't been renovated for library use? Any spaces that might be as they were in the Blackwoods' time?" She considers this. "Well, the basement isn't used for library purposes. It's mostly storage now. And parts of the attic remain untouched. Too difficult to renovate with all those odd angles and low ceilings." "Could we see the basement?" Michael asks. "Specifically, we're interested in what might have been Dr. Blackwood's laboratory." Patricia hesitates. "That area isn't really accessible to the public, but given your research interests, I suppose I could make an exception. Just for a quick look, mind you." She leads us through a staff-only door and down a narrow staircase. The temperature drops noticeably as we descend, and the air takes on a musty, damp quality. "Watch your step," Patricia warns, switching on a light at the bottom of the stairs. The floor is uneven down here. The basement is vast, a labyrinth of stone-walled rooms connected by low archways. Modern fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows, giving the space an eerie, unsettling atmosphere. The original layout has been modified over the years, Patricia explains as she leads us through the maze. "But this section here," she gestures to a large room with a vaulted ceiling, "was Dr. Blackwood's laboratory, according to the plans. The room is being used for storage now, filled with boxes of old books and furniture awaiting repair. But the original features are still visible. A large stone sink against one wall, gas fixtures that once powered Bunsen burners, built-in cabinets with glass doors. It's remarkably well preserved," I comment, running my hand along the smooth wooden surface of a workbench. "The library board considered renovating this space years ago, but there were issues," Patricia says hesitantly. "What kind of issues?" Michael asks. She glances around as if checking that we're alone. "The workers reported problems, equipment malfunctions, unexplained cold spots, a feeling of being watched. One man quit after claiming he saw a woman in Victorian dress standing in that corner over there." She points to a shadowy alcove. "Personally, I think it was just the poor lighting and their imaginations running wild in this old place. But after 3 different contractors refused to continue the work, the board decided to leave the basement as it was." I exchange a glance with Michael. "Has anyone else reported seeing or experiencing anything unusual down here?" Patricia shrugs. "Occasionally, a staff member will mention hearing footsteps or voices when no one else is around. But that's typical in old buildings, isn't it? Settling foundations, pipes expanding and contracting." I move toward the alcove the contractor had pointed out, drawn by some instinct I can't explain. The space is empty now, except for a few broken chairs, but as I step into it, I feel a distinct drop in temperature. "Do you feel that?" I ask Michael, who has followed me. He nods, extending his hand into the alcove. "It's significantly colder here." Patricia joins us, her curiosity evident. "That's odd. There shouldn't be a draft." I pull out the locket from my pocket, feeling it grow cold against my palm as I hold it in the alcove. On an impulse, I open it, revealing Eleanor's portrait inside. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, so faintly that I almost miss it, a whisper of sound emerges from the empty air before us, a woman's voice barely audible. "Help us." Patricia gasps, taking a step back. "What was that? Did you both hear it?" I ask, my heart racing. They nod, faces pale in the harsh fluorescent light. "It sounded like someone asking for help," Michael says. I hold up the locket. "I think Eleanor Blackwood is trying to communicate with us. I think she's been guiding me all along. The diary, the locket, the photograph. She wants us to know what happened to her. Patricia looks between us, clearly unsettled. I think we should go back upstairs now. The library will be closing soon. As we turn to leave, a loud crash comes from behind us. One of the chairs has fallen over, though none of us was near it. Let's go, Patricia says, her voice tight with fear. We hurry through the basement and up the stairs, not speaking until we're back in the well-lit main floor of the library. I'm sorry, Patricia says once we've caught our breath. I'm not usually so jumpy, but that was unexplainable. I finish for her. She nods. Look, I shouldn't do this, but she lowers her voice. If you want to investigate further, I can give you access to the library after hours. I have a key, and I can disable the alarm system. Just don't tell anyone I offered. I'm surprised by her suggestion. Why would you do that for us? She glances around to ensure no one is listening. My grandmother worked for the Hendersons, the family that bought this house after the Blackwoods left. She used to tell stories about strange happenings here. Voices in empty rooms, objects moving on their own. As a child, I thought they were just stories meant to frighten me. But working here all these years, I've experienced things myself that I can't explain. If there's any truth to the old rumors about Dr. Blackwood and what he did in this house, well, perhaps it's time those secrets were brought to light. We arranged to meet Patricia at the library at midnight. As Michael and I leave, the sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The library's Gothic silhouette stands stark against the colorful backdrop, windows gleaming like watchful eyes. Are you sure about this? Michael asks as we walk to our cars. Breaking into a public building after hours? We're not breaking in. Patricia is giving us access. Still, it's unconventional. I stop and turn to face him. Michael, you heard that voice. You felt the cold spot. Something is happening here. Something connected to what Blackwood and Marorrow did in 1893. Don't you want to know what it is? He sighs, running a hand through his hair. Of course I do. The scientist in me can't walk away from this. But the rational part of me is screaming that we're venturing into dangerous territory. I know. But I think Eleanor Blackwood has been reaching out to me for a reason. I think she needs our help. Michael nods reluctantly. All right, I'll meet you back here at midnight. But Daniel, let's be careful. Whatever happened in that house all those years ago, it was powerful enough to leave an imprint that still felt today. I spend the evening at home, trying to distract myself with mundane tasks, washing dishes, paying bills, answering emails. But my mind keeps returning to the Blackwood photograph, to the hidden image beneath it, to the voice in the basement asking for help. At 11:30, I gather what I think we might need. Flashlights, a digital camera, Eleanor's diary and locket, and the Blackwood photograph itself. Something tells me that bringing the photograph back to the house where it was taken might be significant. The night is clear and cold, stars sprinkled across the black velvet sky like diamonds. The library stands dark and imposing, its windows reflecting the moonlight. Patricia is waiting for us at the side entrance, her breath forming clouds in the chilly air. I've disabled the alarm system, she whispers as she unlocks the door. We'll have the place to ourselves until the cleaning crew arrives at 5 a.m. The library is transformed at night, the familiar spaces rendered strange and somewhat threatening in the darkness. Our flashlight beams create moving islands of light as we make our way through the silent building. I'd like to go back to the basement first, I say. To the laboratory. Patricia leads the way, her keys jingling softly as we descend the stairs. The basement seems even colder and more oppressive at night, the darkness pressing in from all sides despite our flashlights. In the laboratory, I head directly for the alcove where we heard the voice. The temperature drop is more pronounced now, the air so cold that our breath forms visible clouds. Eleanor? I call softly, holding out the locket. We're here to help you. Silence answers me. I try again, opening the locket to reveal her portrait. Eleanor Blackwood, if you can hear me, give us a sign. The air in the alcove seems to thicken, becoming almost viscous. Our flashlight beams dim slightly, as if something is absorbing their light. And then, faintly at first but growing stronger, a woman's voice emerges from the empty air. He took us, all of us, trapped. Michael's flashlight slips from his fingers, clattering to the floor but still illuminating the alcove. In its beam, for just a moment, I see a translucent figure, a woman in Victorian dress, her face the same as the portrait in the locket. Eleanor, I whisper. The figure flickers like a candle flame in a draft. Her mouth moves, but the words are too faint to hear. I can't understand you, I say, stepping closer despite the bone-deep cold that now permeates the alcove. The spectral figure gestures urgently toward the wall behind her, then fades from view. "Did you see that?" I ask, turning to Michael and Patricia. They nod, faces pale in the flashlight glow. "She was pointing at the wall," Michael says, moving forward to examine it. "There's something here." He runs his hands over the stone surface, pressing and tapping. "It sounds hollow behind this section." Patricia directs her flashlight at the area. "That's odd. According to the original plans, there shouldn't be anything behind this wall." Michael continues his examination, pressing various stones until one shifts slightly under his hand. "I think it's a hidden door mechanism." With a grinding sound, a section of the wall swings inward, revealing a narrow passage beyond. "A secret room," I breathe, not on any of the plans. Our flashlights illuminate a small, circular chamber beyond the door. Unlike the rest of the basement, this room appears untouched by time. No dust, no cobwebs, as if it exists in a different dimension from the rest of the house. In the center of the room stands a strange apparatus, a combination of camera, medical equipment, and what looks like electrical components, all mounted on a tripod. The device is clearly old, Victorian in design, yet somehow looks as if it was assembled yesterday, its brass and copper fittings gleaming in our flashlight beams. "Marorrow's machine," I whisper. "It has to be." Around the walls of the chamber, photographs hang in a continuous circle, dozens of them, each showing a different person. Men, women, children, all posed formally as was the style in the late 19th century. And in each photograph, the subject's eyes seem to follow us as we move about the room. "Look at their expressions," Patricia says, her voice hushed. "They all look afraid." She's right. Despite the formal poses, there's a tension in each face, a fear in the eyes that transcends the usual solemnity of Victorian portraiture. In the center of the wall hangs a larger photograph, the Blackwood family portrait, identical to the one I've been researching. But this copy seems different somehow, more vibrant, as if it's not just a photograph but a window into another time. I take out the copy I brought with me, holding it up next to the one on the wall. They're identical in composition, but the wall version seems to pulse with a subtle energy, the sepia tones deeper, richer. "The original," I say. "This must be the original photograph, and mine is a copy." Michael examines Marorrow's device, careful not to touch it. "This is incredible. It's like a hybrid of a camera and some kind of medical equipment. Look at these lenses. They're arranged in a way I've never seen before. And these dials, they're labeled with measurements I don't recognize." I turn my attention back to the photographs lining the walls. These must be Marorrow's subjects, or victims. "But why keep their photographs here?" Patricia asks. "And why in a hidden room?" The answer comes to me suddenly, a terrible realization that makes my blood run cold. "Because they're not just photographs, they're containers." "Containers?" Michael repeats. "For what?" "For souls," I whisper. Marorrow and Blackwood weren't just photographing the soul, they were capturing it, trapping it within the image. As if in response to my words, a low humming begins to emanate from the photographs around us. The sound grows, becoming a chorus of voices, whispers at first, then more distinct, dozens of voices speaking simultaneously. "Help us. Release us. We are trapped. We cannot pass on." The temperature in the room plummets, our breath now forming thick clouds before our faces. The humming intensifies, the voices more urgent. "How?" I call out. "How can we help you?" The cacophony of voices falls silent, replaced by a single clear voice. "Eleanor's. The machine. Reverse it. Set us free." Michael turns back to the device in the center of the room. If this machine somehow captured souls within photographs, theoretically it could be reversed to release them. But we don't know how it works. I approach the machine cautiously. It's both familiar and alien. A camera, yes, but unlike any I've ever seen. The lenses are arranged in a complex overlapping pattern, and dials and gauges cover its surface. Their markings in a notation I don't recognize. "There must be instructions somewhere," I say, searching the room. "Marorrow wouldn't have built this without documenting how it worked." Patricia's flashlight beam catches a glint of metal beneath the machine. She bends down and retrieves a small brass key. "Look at this," she says, holding it up. The key is ornate, Victorian in design, with an intricate pattern engraved on its bow. It matches the design on the locket, I realize, pulling out Eleanor's locket to compare. The same swirling pattern decorates both. On an impulse, I try the key in the locket. It fits perfectly into a tiny keyhole I hadn't noticed before, hidden in the decorative edging. When I turn it, the locket opens not to the portrait I've seen before, but to a hidden compartment containing a folded piece of paper. With trembling fingers, I unfold it. The paper contains a diagram of Marorrow's machine, with annotations in a tiny, precise handwriting. At the bottom is a note. To reverse the process, the primary lens must be rotated anti-clockwise through 3 full revolutions, while the secondary lenses are aligned with the cardinal points. The energy flow will then be reversed, releasing what has been captured. But beware, all that has been taken must be returned to its rightful place, or chaos will result. SM. Sebastian Marorrow, Michael says, reading over my shoulder. He left instructions on how to reverse the process. But why? Patricia asks. If he went to such lengths to trap these souls, why provide a way to free them? Insurance, perhaps, I suggest. Or maybe he had a change of heart. Or maybe, I glance at the photograph of the Blackwood family. Maybe he became a victim of his own invention. I remember the face I saw in the vortex. The man with the triumphant expression holding a camera. Marorrow, captured in his own device. We need to try, I say, turning to the machine. We need to reverse it. Michael looks uncertain. Daniel, we don't know what will happen. All that has been taken must be returned to its rightful place. What does that even mean? The people in these photographs have been dead for over a century. Their bodies are long gone. But their souls remain trapped, I insist, caught between worlds. We have to try to free them. Patricia steps forward. I agree with Daniel. My family has been connected to this house for generations. If there's any truth to my grandmother's stories, these spirits have been suffering for far too long. Michael sighs but nods. All right, but let's be methodical about this. According to the instructions, we need to rotate this primary lens counterclockwise 3 times while aligning these secondary lenses to the cardinal points. We identify the components mentioned in Marorrow's notes. The primary lens is the largest, mounted at the front of the device. The secondary lenses, 4 smaller ones arranged around the main lens, can be rotated on their mounts. The cardinal points would be north, south, east, and west, I say. But how do we know which way is north down here? Patricia pulls out her phone. Compass app, she says, holding it up. Modern technology meets Victorian spiritualism. Using the app, we orient ourselves and align the secondary lenses accordingly. Then, with Michael and Patricia watching tensely, I grasp the primary lens mount and begin to rotate it counterclockwise. 1 full revolution. Nothing happens. 2 full revolutions. The air in the room seems to thicken, becoming heavy with static electricity. The photographs on the walls begin to vibrate slightly in their frames. As I complete the 3rd revolution, several things happen simultaneously. The machine emits a high-pitched whine, building rapidly in intensity. The photographs around the room glow with an inner light, the faces within them seeming to press against the surface of the paper, like people trying to break through a membrane. And the Blackwood family portrait, the original on the wall, begins to pulse with a blinding white light, the hidden image beneath it now visible even without X-rays. The ritual circle, Eleanor's prone form, the swirling vortex above her, all can be seen clearly, superimposed over the formal family portrait. It's working! I shout over the whine of the machine. The light from the photographs intensifies, becoming almost unbearable. Within each image, the captured figures seem to be dissolving, their features blurring as the light grows stronger. Suddenly, the machine lets out a sound like a thunderclap, and the room is plunged into absolute darkness. Our flashlights are dead, and even the faint emergency lighting from the main basement has vanished. For several seconds, we stand in perfect blackness, afraid to move. Then, gradually, a soft light begins to fill the room, not from our flashlights, but from the air itself, which now seems to shimmer with tiny points of luminescence, like fireflies or stars. These points of light begin to gather, swirling together to form human shapes, translucent, glowing figures that hover in the air before us. Dozens of them, men and women in Victorian dress, children in old-fashioned clothes, all looking at us with expressions of wonder and gratitude. Among them, standing nearest to us, is Eleanor Blackwood, just as she appears in her portrait. Beside her is a man I recognize from the vortex image, Sebastian Marorrow, his beard and piercing eyes unmistakable. They don't speak, not in words, but somehow I understand what they're communicating. Gratitude, relief, a sense of peace long denied them. The figures begin to fade, their light diminishing as they disperse like morning mist under the sun. Eleanor is the last to remain, her luminous form lingering before us. She reaches out, her hand passing through mine in a sensation like a cool breeze, and then she too is gone. The room returns to darkness, but only for a moment before our flashlights flicker back to life. We stand in silence, processing what we've witnessed. The chamber has changed. The photographs that lined the walls are now blank, the images completely gone, leaving only aged, yellowed paper in their frames. Marorrow's machine appears different too, tarnished, rusted in places, showing the century and more of age that it had somehow defied until now. And the Blackwood family portrait on the wall, the original, has transformed. The hidden image is gone. Now it shows only the family, but with one crucial difference. They're smiling. William, Eleanor, Catherine, Thomas, and Margaret, all with genuine smiles, the tension and fear erased from their expressions. I pull out my copy of the photograph from my pocket. It has changed as well, matching the revised original perfectly. We did it, Patricia whispers. We freed them. But what exactly happened here? Michael asks, his scientific mind still grappling with the inexplicable. How could souls be trapped in photographs? How could they remain that way for over a century? Or perhaps some questions don't have scientific answers, I reply. Perhaps some mysteries are meant to remain just that, mysteries. We leave the hidden chamber, closing the secret door behind us. As we make our way back through the basement, I feel a profound lightness, as if a weight I didn't know I was carrying has been lifted. In the main library, dawn is breaking, pale light filtering through the stained glass windows. The building feels different now, peaceful, the oppressive atmosphere gone. Patricia looks around, sensing the change too. It feels cleaner somehow, lighter. The spirits have moved on, I say. Whatever held them here has been broken. As we prepare to leave, I hand Eleanor's locket to Patricia. This belongs here, I think, with the house and its history. She takes it, holding it carefully. I'll make sure it's preserved in our historical collection, along with the true story of what happened to the Blackwoods. Will anyone believe it? Michael asks. Patricia smiles. Perhaps not. But the truth doesn't always need to be believed to be the truth. Outside, the new day is bright and clear, the autumn air crisp and invigorating. Michael and I say goodbye to Patricia, promising to return soon to help document what we've discovered for the Historical Society's records. As we walk to our cars, Michael turns to me. You know, as a scientist, I should be questioning everything we just experienced, looking for rational explanations. And are you? He shakes his head. No. Some things transcend rational explanation. What we witnessed was real, whatever its nature. I think of Eleanor, Blackwood, and the others, trapped for over a century in a limbo of someone else's making, finally freed to whatever lies beyond our world. What do you think happens now? I ask. To them, I mean. Michael considers this. I don't know. Perhaps they move on to whatever awaits all of us after death. Perhaps they simply end. But they're free now. That's what matters. We part ways, agreeing to meet later to discuss how much of our discovery should be shared with the world. Some secrets, perhaps, are better left buried, like Marorrow's machine, which we decided to leave in its chamber, the door sealed once more. As I drive home through the awakening town, I glance at the copy of the Blackwood photograph on the passenger seat beside me. The family smiles back at me, their images now just ink on paper, nothing more hidden beneath the surface. Or at least, nothing that an X-ray would reveal. But I know better now. I know that photographs can hold more than just images. They can contain memories, emotions, even souls if the conditions are right. And I know that some mysteries, once solved, only lead to deeper questions. But for now, for today, it's enough to know that I helped bring peace to those long trapped between worlds. The Blackwoods are free, their secret finally revealed after more than a century of silence. And as for the photograph, I'll keep it as a reminder that what we see on the surface is rarely the whole truth, that beneath the everyday world lies another reality, unseen but ever present, waiting for someone to shine the right light upon it and reveal what has always been hidden in plain sight. This 1893 photo was X-rayed, and it showed another image hidden underneath, an image that changed everything I thought I knew about photography, about death, and about the thin veil that separates our world from whatever lies beyond. Some might call it a ghost story. Others might dismiss it as fantasy, but I know what I saw in that hidden chamber beneath the Westbrook Public Library. I know what we released into the light. And sometimes, late at night, When the house is quiet and the shadows grow long, I take out the photograph and look at the smiling faces of the Blackwood family, and I could swear that just for a moment, Eleanor's eyes meet mine across the gulf of time, filled with gratitude for the freedom we helped her find. Then the moment passes, and the photograph is just a photograph once more, a window into the past, but no longer a prison for those caught within its frame. And that, perhaps, is the greatest mystery of all, how something as simple as a photograph can bridge the gap between worlds, between life and death, between the seen and the unseen. A mystery that, like the souls we freed, is better left to find its own peace in the shadows of history.